Yeah, it's A. It's Colleen Gorman. I am coming to you from not my usual place, not from Rogers Place, but from Phoenix, Arizona. I had a flight delay, so things got held up. So I'm trying to stream from the airport. So I apologize for the noise. Here. But I just wanted to touch in for Re-Indigenizing minds because we did promise we were going to something up. And I wanted to share a little bit of some of the interesting things that I have been working on this week, but even just like a little bit of review of some of Roger's some of the work with the calendar, the sacred calendar. So I appreciate you for tuning in if you are tuning in. And so I guess we'll get started. Okay, and so for those of you who have never met me before, I'm Navajo, originally from the Navajo Reservation, grew up in Chinle, Arizona, Canyon de Chelly area. So if you ever get a chance to go out there, you should definitely check out the canyon and the Anasazi ruins. There's lots of great stuff out on the Navajo Reservation. So today, actually yesterday and today, I was asked to be a keynote panelist, and this was for the Indigenous Teachers Education program. And so this is coming out of the University of Arizona. So there is a Indigenous Teacher Education program. So if anyone is interested in that, we're trying to support Indigenous teachers, young people to learn about how to instruct with languages, revitalizing languages, incorporating Indigenous paradigms into instruction. It was a really great event, and it was held at the Sheraton Hotel. And definitely, I would, it was just really amazing. And so I would encourage you to check it out. Here's a little deal. There's their logo, ITIP, at the University of Arizona. And so the founders are, is the founder there? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I thought the founder was on there. But they founded this program as a bachelor degree program back in 2016, 2017. And their first cohort went through and got a bachelor's degree. So the program is aimed at increasing the number of Indigenous teachers that serve Indigenous students, schools, and communities. And Indigenous teacher candidates graduate as certified elementary or early childhood education teachers with a focus on Indigenous education. So ITIP provides tuition coverage, 2 years of induction support, mentor and peer support, and support to pass the knowledge and certification exams in the state of Arizona. And so what to expect if you want to join this program, the ITEP teacher candidates will complete field work, and the student teaching in schools will serve Indigenous students, and they'll also support teacher candidates through job search and providing induction support during their first years of teaching. So there were teachers from the Hopi tribe, there were Diné teachers, there were teachers from the Tohono O'odham tribe there, and the Pima, the Acoma O'odham, they were there. And so it was really an amazing, a great experience just to be there and to hear what people had to say, and to have knowledge keepers and retired teachers talk about kind of strategies and practices and approaches to to ways to teach Indigenous paradigms, and divided models. So that was really cool. But I also want to share with you some upcoming events. Check this out. Right. So we have the 2024 Winter Story Series. So if you are in the Tucson area, check it out on Friday, the 20th of December. So it looks like it's like the 21st through 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And there's the QR code. You can pause it and take a picture of that. Whoops, there you go. So yeah, definitely check it out or type that in. So if you want to check that out, just pause it, go back and register for that. So it's some traditional storytelling. And so there's a lot of Indigenous paradigms in storytelling, and I'm pretty sure they'll break it down to you. So that's a great way to learn some Indigenous knowledge that you could share with your people in different ways. It's a learning opportunity. So I just wanted to let you know about that. That's coming up, and that's going to be in Tucson. Also, I know there were just some really great things from that conference. There were so many wonderful people who put that together. And so I'm right now, my brain is kind of bubbling because the noise and the distraction here at the airport. So it's a great program. I also want to let people know about the Diné Language Teacher Institute, DLTI, at the University of New Mexico. That's to support Navajo language teachers who want to get their 520 certification. So it's an opportunity to take some great classes. You can take advanced Navajo. Right now it's funded. They are looking for more grant funding to support providing tuition free to students who want to do that, as well as a $1,400 technology stipend. So some of the classes are immersion instruction, how to teach in an immersion setting, and kind of like the strategies and practices of doing that, and revitalizing languages, reading books about different tribes, Indigenous peoples around the world who are doing that, and their strategies and approaches for revitalizing languages. So there's some really great books out there. So I just, I think it's a really good opportunity to try and reconnect. And if you are a Navajo language speaker already, I would just encourage you to take the 520 exam that the Navajo Nation provides, because if you pass that, then you can actually, I think, level 1 certification in the state of New Mexico. You can teach. It's like $50,000 a year, and there's this, So I think the Diné Language Teacher Institute can try and also support you if you want to take the test. If you feel like you don't know anything about lesson planning and things like that. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because that we really need people. I'm teaching Navajo and supporting that at Albuquerque Public Schools. And with Albuquerque Public Schools, there's about 80 to 85,000 students in the city of Albuquerque, and there's about over 7,000 Native Americans and about 4,600 Navajos. There's only 7 Navajo teachers. So we definitely need help, even if you're just intermediate level, just teaching Navajo, the elementary Navajo 1 and 2, the basics. I think that's really important, and at least getting the youth started on their lifelong journey, because language acquisition really is a lifelong journey. And so the very first 0 to 6 months I tell my students, be patient with yourself, because the first 0 to 6 months of learning a new language or your native language that you're learning as a second language, like that will be the silent period. The 6 months to a year of exposure to your language, that's when you get to the pre-production period, when you might be speaking 1 to 3 words. And then 1 year to 3 years would be called the emergent production period, and that would be where you're speaking short phrases um, and responding to basic sentence questions and prompts and things like that. You know, being able to hold a basic, like survival Navajo, being able to hold a basic conversation. And then from about 3 years to 5 years of exposure, that's when you start to gain a higher fluency. So you're more intermediate level fluency. And then from about 5 to 7 years, like you definitely higher fluency. At that point, you're going to plateau in your language journey. So the only way to improve your fluency at that point is to take more advanced classes in the language or to find a mentor to do daily tasks with so that you can improve your language. And so you can start to achieve near native fluency at that point. But and you know, so it takes time. And so the students who are in an urban setting, um, you know, just be patient with yourself if you're trying to learn Navajo or any language, whatever your indigenous language may be. Some of us are Huts. We come from different tribes, you know, so it can definitely be a challenge. And I think some of the topics that have been coming up in the classes, talking about colonialism, um, I I know that we've been taught to be ashamed about ourselves, and so if someone is going to learn a language, they need to be highly motivated, be self-confident, and have a low or no anxiety environment. So that's like the ideal situation for someone to learn. So as a teacher, I try to create a safe environment where students are playing games and having fun. So they're picking up language without really knowing it in some ways, or they're practicing and playing games to learn the language. So that's one way to do it. And then because there are different dialects just within the Navajo language alone, we have Western Navajo, Central and Eastern Navajo, as well as Northern Navajo and Southern Navajo. So I tell the students, if someone tells you you're mispronouncing something, don't take that to heart. Just understand that there are different dialects. People speak differently from different parts of the reservation. We have different words for this for some things, and there may just be differences in pronunciation. And you can work with your teacher if you need to work on like pronunciation or making certain sounds that are slightly difficult to make. It is possible to do that. So I just want to encourage people, you know, that multilingualism has always been valued by our culture because we're a culture that has always traded. And I don't know when this whole, I guess when this whole like monolingual, like, you know, nationalistic approach to language came into being. I think nationalism really does a disservice to its own people of any country because many people are multilingual. And so it's really nice to be able to be multilingual. I speak Navajo, Spanish, and English. And I really enjoy watching Asian dramas and picking up on Mandarin and Korean. And it's really interesting some of the similarities in the words, the same usage of words that are used in their languages that we also use. So I think that's really interesting too. And it's just really beautiful and sexy, I think, when you, when you see people speaking different languages and they have that capability, you know. Yeah, I think definitely try to learn how to speak more languages. It's a good thing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next subject here. So I want to do a little bit of a review. Excuse me. I hope you can hear me. But I'm going to share with you the calendar here. There we go. Okay, so this is the 260-day calendar. And on the left-hand side are the day names. The 260-day calendar is an indigenous calendar that was used by the peoples of the Americas. It was a shared calendar, and if you understand it, you can also kind of understand the layout of medicine wheels, um, of different structures across different cultures. And it's tied to the morning star to Venus. So that has some, understand that there's a duality to that because Venus can be the morning star or the evening star. So when you're looking at the calendar, there's about 20 day names on the side. And what Roger did um, was he took the glyphs. A lot of people know the Aztec calendar. So he put the glyphs on the left hand side and he put the English translations of the glyph here on the left hand side. So there are 20 day names and there are 13 columns. So 20 times 13 is 260 day. That's where the name 260 day calendar came from. It's a star calendar because it's based on Venus and the Pleiades. So once every 52 years, uh, the the Pleiades rises when the sun is setting as Venus sets, and then in the morning as Pleiades is setting, Venus rises as the morning star. And during that night, when Pleiades is at its zenith, that's kind of when the start of the new year, the new 52-year cycle is. And it's actually 52 years and 13 days. The 13 days are the leap days. So normally within the Gregorian paradigm, you have a quarter of a day times 4 years and you get your leap day. But within the indigenous paradigm, you have a quarter of a day times 52 years and you get 13 days. And so these 13 days, these 13 leap days are actually not named. So they're just unnamed days that are observed. And so we have on the left-hand side the English translation of these glyphs. And like I said, Roger used the glyphs because it was well known. But different tribes applied their own paradigms and give their own names. So we have alligator as the first day. Then we have alligator, wind, house, lizard, serpent, death, deer, rabbit, water, dog. So dog is where that horizontal yellow blocks are located here. Those are that's dog. And then monkey, herb, reed, jaguar, eagle, condor, movement, flint, rain, and flower. So those are the 20 day names. And you can see that the numbers, you start this calendar from the top left-hand side, and the numbers proceed down to 13. And then when you get to 13, it starts over again. So the first day of this calendar would be one alligator, and then it would be 2 wind, 3 house, 4 lizard, sorry, alligator. My glass, I need, this is my first year. I think I would need bifocals. It's hard for me to read. Alligator, wind, house, lizard. Yep. And then serpent, deer, rabbit, dog. So you would go all the way down. And so the 13th day would end on, let's see, alligator, wind, house, lizard, serpent, deer, jaguar. And then you would start over at, 13 read is the end of that first week. And then the next sort of week, I guess you could say, would be 1 jaguar. So you get all the way to the bottom, and so that is 8 flower. At that point, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the next column, the very top of the column, and you're going to start that over again. So in this case, we're going to do alligator. 8 alligator, I believe. And then you just cruise down and you just go until you get to the very end, which would be 13 flower, the bottom right hand corner of this entire calendar. And then you'll start all over again. And so that cycle begins. And from this calendar, you can extrapolate, you can derive the year count calendar. So the years begin, that Venus Pleiades event that occurs on the day 1 read. So that is, we have alligator, wind, house, lizard, serpent, death, deer, rabbit, water, dog, monkey, herb, reed, jaguar. Oops, reed. I won't start past it. Okay, so in the first column, that would be 13 reed. The second column would be 7 reed. And then the third column, that's where the one reed is. So you can see that Roger took that one particular box and he colored it red and circled the number 1. And so he was just indicating that that was a very important day. That's when the start day is for the 52-year cycle. And once you get there, basically you can start deriving the year count calendar. So let me bring up an example of the year count calendar before I start going into that. So let me see if we add this to the stage. Okay, so the year count calendar is actually, you can see here on the top left-hand side, it starts with 1 reed because that's the year. So this is the years. These are the years. So we have reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit. That's a very interesting pattern that happens. And then you go increasing in the number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 13. At which point, it'll be 13 reed in that first 13-year cycle. And then it'll start with the year 1 flint. But that pattern of reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit continues. And then when you get to the end of the 13-year cycle, you have 13 flint. So this here you're looking at, this first column is actually 26 years that you are looking at. So this particular page that I scanned in, I could only fit in 26 years. So let's go to the next quarter. This is the next quarter of the next 26 years. So this one starts at the year 1 house in the top corner, and that pattern of the years holds. Reed, flint, house, rabbit, so house, reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit, until you get to 13 house. So that third quarter of 13 years, or I'm sorry, the third quarter of 52 years, it starts with 1 house and it ends with 13 house. And in November, we will actually be going into 13 house. November 3rd, I believe is the date. And then that's our Indigenous New Year. Excuse me. And then after that, we're going to go into rabbit. So 1 rabbit all the way down to 13 rabbit. And that, again, that year pattern repeats of reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit, reed, flint, house, rabbit. And the numbers increase from 1 to 13. So when you get to the bottom of this 52-year cycle, that's when you would count your unnamed days. And that would be your leap days. And so after that, then you would come back to the first page. And in this case, you would go to start at the second column and you would continue. So this particular calendar section, it looks like it starts at 842. And so after 52 years, when you get to the top of the second column, it starts at 894. So you have to remember that's in November. You have to take that into account. That's when the Indigenous New Year takes place. And so this particular page that we're looking at the very bottom, it says the left-hand side of the 13 heaven cycles. So I'm going to bring up a glyph to kind of explain this larger cycle of time. Let me see if I can put this to the stage. Right here. This here is from the Codex. It's from Archaeoastronomy, and it's recreated from page 2 of the Codex Vaticanus. So you can, go on Amazon and you might be able to buy or find Archaeoastronomy by Avani. And this is where that particular page comes from. So with the glyphs, what you see here are 13 heavens, and down below you see what was called the nine cycles of the underworld, or what Roger and I refer to as 9 hells. And so each of these little kind of layers, they're literally layers of time. So they represent 52 years. So you have 13 52-year cycles, and then you have 9 52-year cycles, totaling up to about 1,044 years. That is what this glyph represents. And so when the conquistadors came in, they applied their Western ideology to an indigenous paradigm. So what they did was they went from here, this black spot, which represents Earth, and you can see the plants growing on Earth going up. And so they numbered it 1 going up to 13 heavens, because in their mind, they're thinking like linear Western worldview, a Judeo-Christian based foundation. So they're thinking, oh, up to heaven, down to hell. And so then they numbered it with Roman numerals going down. But that's not how Indians think. Indians think in circles. And I think Lame Deer was one of the, was a Lakota medicine man who said everything in this world tries to be round. Everything in the universe tries to be round. So I think of it like a tire that's been kind of cut and then laid flat so you can see the whole thing. That's kind of what I think about it as. And so there's duality within this image as well, because where the plants are growing in that little black square in the middle, that actually represents Earth. And so Earth is, that's where the underworld begins. And so the number 1 here represents, I guess you could say it's like going up, that 1 is going up to heaven, and then the 1 going down to hell. So that's where 1 would be, I guess. So when you look at this calendar and you see here that there are 13 columns, that's because there's 13 52-year cycles. Okay. And when you go to the next page, sorry, so I turned the page, so let me go back to the beginning. Sorry. Okay, so here we are, 13, right? And then here's the right-hand side of that. So then there's that second half of the 52-year cycles. So you can still see there's 13. Now we're going to go over here. And this here, it's a little bit skinnier, the columns, because there are only 9 columns. This is the cycles of the underworld. And so in this case, 1518, 1 reed. Again, you have to remember that was in November, is it November 15, 18? Or is it November 15, 17? I have to think about that. But that's about when Cortez arrived. So, they thought he was Quetzalcoatl. And so generally 1 reed is part of the story of Quetzalcoatl, who was known as the Morning Star. So Morning Star has a twin, Evening Star. So that's how I see Cortez, is he was the Evening Star twin, the dark twin. And so we enter our cycles of hell, our cycles of underworld. And so each year was worse than the year before. So looking again at these glyphs, if you really look, I'll have to see if I can zoom in. If you really zoom in when it's a slide. But these pictures are kind of not very nice looking pictures, each one getting worse than the ones before. So that's what happened here during the time of conquest. And here's the second side on the right hand side is the time of conquest. And the very last cycle, you can see there we're transitioning. It's a transitioning cycle. You can see at the top right hand corner the year 1 house. That's actually 2012. And if we go back to the heaven cycles about 500 years ago, let me go back to that same page. In the heaven cycle, you go to the very last cycle on the right hand side, and one house is 1492. So that's when new people arrived. And now here we are, 2012, and we're actually in the year 12 Flint. So in November will be the year 13 house. So that'll be the last 13 years of this third quarter in the 52-year cycle. So that's kind of where we are in time. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that this is Indigenous time, Indian time. Let me see. There's information about it in the Aztec calendar. There are 4 worlds. So the Aztec calendar is also known as the Eagle Sun Bowl. There are 4 worlds incorporated into the Aztec calendar stone, or the Eagle Sun Bowl. And Roger's really broken it down into some really big numbers, but I'm not going to go over that because this actually has this can actually take a really long time, and I don't want to miss my flight. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and finish up here. So we have the faces on the Aztec calendar stone. You see the spike at the top, and then you see these boxes off to the side of the face. So we have Jaguar, which represents the earth. The first world cycle was destroyed by volcanoes. Then we have the wind, and that side represented when the world cycle was destroyed by hurricanes. And according to Aztec legends, the people at that time were turned into monkeys. So this kind of ties into I want to say it's the racist paradigm that was put forth by Darwin, because Darwin's theory of evolution was actually very, very racial. It was racialized theory, and it was just another way for Western world colonization to kind of assert their dominance and assert that people of color around the world were less than and not human. And I believe that, I don't know if it was the church, I forget who, but he was basically paid to go basically create this paradigm to support that. So, who knows? Anyways, sorry if I offended people, but that's just my thoughts on that. And hey, if you're really into that, into the theories of that sort, then then you can just discount me because here am I. But then anyways, going back to the indigenous paradigms of the destruction of the world, the previous destructions of the world, there was a rain of fire, and that was, and then there was a water sign, and that was when the world was destroyed by a flood. So we have all this in our history. And then all together, those 4 boxes combine to make movement. So it's kind of like the I Ching. I think that's how they say that. Air, earth, fire, water, all combine to make movement. So movement is the heartbeat of the life, and represents earthquakes. So it's all a cycle. Even if it's the end of the world, it's not the end of the world. It's like the end of the day. When the clock is at 11:59, it's not the end of the world. It's just a new cycle starts. So I think the Judeo-Christian based views of the world is really kind of like a lot about creating fear about end times and the end of things, and I feel like that's really just like media, like mainstream media, and kind of how the government tries to control people today with fear. That's just part of that. So let me see. So that I guess that's about it for the 260-day calendar. I would like very much to show you guys some of the work that I've done with analyzing Mars. I have a lot of pictures that I put together, and that might just have to be another time because it's 20 minutes now, and so I just appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to me. And I know some of this is review. It's kind of hard to do StreamYard from an airport using my mobile hotspot. So I'll be a little bit more prepared next time. I was just a little busy because of this conference and the things that were going on and traveling and trying to take care of my mom and such. But there'll be more stuff that we'll put together on re-indigenizing minds. And thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. And you guys have a good day. Thanks to everyone.